Welcome back, knife fans, to another fixed blade review. I've been going wild with fixed blades over the past 6 months or so, custom fixed blades, production fixed blades, and yes, even some Civivi fixed blades. And that's an interesting thing because you don't think of fixed blades so much when you think of Civivis. You think of liner locks and whatnot, button locks of late, etc., etc., etc. What do we have here? Well, this is a design by Maciej Torbe, who has designed previously for Civivi a knife called the Kepler, which I'll show you in a moment. And this baby here is called the Maxwell. Civivi Maxwell. I've left the Kydex sheath on for the moment because I find that one of the very great features of this knife is the sheath. And you know, I'm always talking about sheaths should have a provision for thumbing them off should you want to take it out slowly without making a loud noise, or if you want to carry it for some reason in the pocket. This one's a bit big for the pocket, but maybe not for some pockets. Depends upon what you're wearing, I suppose. We'll show you that it comes with what Civivi has been using a lot of on their fixed blades lately, the Terzola Tech Lock. Yes, he was the inventor of that style of belt attachment. Of course, that can be taken off. You can use discrete carry concepts, clips. You can use ulti-clip, whatever your heart desires. This also did come with a lanyard on it. I prefer not the lanyard, kind of gets in my way. Some of you may prefer the lanyard if you're chopping with it, a little extra to wrap around your hand. And you've always got some handy paracord there, this being the flat variety with no cord. So let's see how this works. You've got a perfect hollow for your thumb. I mean, it just fits in there like a fingerprint. And bang. No, I'm not Jared Neves. And I'm sorry I didn't steal that expression from him. But it did make a little noise coming off of the knife, didn't it? Look at this impressive, what would you call it? Part Tanto, part drop point, part spear point, part arrow point. Little interruption there. I'm back with you. It'll always appear brief on the video. But I live with other people in this house, and occasionally they need my attention. You know how it is. I was telling you how impressed I am with this design. It is not a light knife. It's close to 10 ounces. It is close to 5 millimeters in blade stock. We're going to measure it up in a moment. It's got this beautiful fuller going down the middle. Reminds me a bit of the designs of Mr. Morgan Cohen's up in Canada. And not too heavily branded. There's your Civivi on one side. Anytime you got a black knife, you're going to have white lettering. It's going to stand out. But it's small. And there we have Torbe Knives, Macy's company. That is the designer. The knife is in D2, and it's so faint there, it's as if they don't want to broadcast that because everybody knocks D2. Not everybody. There's guys out there that like D2, and they appreciate it for what it is. It is a good basic tool and die tool, a tool and die steel from long ago. Been with us for a while. And if it's properly hardened, it is one hell of a performing steel. Microtech Knives. I've got a beautiful fixed blade from them from back in early 2000s in D2. They were doing S30 at that time and D2. I happened to get the D2, even though I asked for the S30. Okay, off topic. See that little cutout there? I think that's really done as a sharpening choil, so that's a good thing too. You're not going to run into anything. You've got a good clean break there for the edge. Got a nice plunge grind that's well behind there, so you've got a lot of space for sharpening, and nothing's going to get in the way, probably no matter what you're sharpening with. And that edge falls well below the handle, as it does on the Kepler that I'm going to show you in a moment. But usually like a little taller handles, but this slightly narrower tapering handle feels pretty darn good. Got some nice jimping here, kind of a bumpy style jimping, but still it grabs. And you got the same thing on the pommel. That pommel can be used as a skull crusher or glass breaker. You don't need to necessarily have the little ceramic ball in the end there in order for that to work. All you need is a defined hard point. Okay. Tall grind, even though it doesn't go all the way up to the top of the spine, that is a large flat, and it terminates in a very slicey edge on both the front portion and the main grind. You can feel that just, I mean, it will shave hair, and I don't have a hell of a lot of hair on my arms, but I'm not gonna get into that. I would need the shaving cream anyway. Just a cool design. I don't know what to tell you, and I don't know how it can be described. You can probably give it like 3 different characteristics, and you'd be right on every one of them. Really nicely done G10. Some nice grain in there. Screws are interesting in the handle. There's 4 of them. These 2 being larger, I'm going to say they're probably in the order of like a T12 at least. Certainly bigger than a T8. 2 small screws in the center, 2 big screws on the end. Kind of interesting why he did that, but he did it. Nice finger groove here, acts doubles as a guard. Keeps you from sliding forward. Doesn't matter whether you're holding this knife in the point down position or the point up position. Little, not bad there actually to cap it with the thumb, because you can see the joint of the knuckle goes in there and then comes over the top just a little bit. Got a very wide slot for a lanyard, so it can be down or it can be up or whatever if you use a lanyard. Let's grab some measurements on it. We've got overall 10 1/4 inches. Oh, I got to get it way down there. We got 4 3/4 inch blade, and we've got a cutting edge of 5 1/8. So it's one of those knives where we've got more cutting edge than actual length, because we're measuring the length to this forward portion of the handle. All right. In inches, let's get the handle thickness, 0.65. Let's make sure that's correct. Oh, a little bigger, 0.69. Okay. And a blade thickness, 0.19. Seems about right. 4.8 millimeters, almost a 5 millimeter knife blade thickness. Let's check out the old weight. I did weigh it earlier. Let's do it in front of the camera. In ounces, 9.488, 9.5 ounce knife. So not a lightweight, not a pocket knife, maybe not even a front pocket carry. You're probably going to want this on some sort of a belt mount, or maybe even a shoulder rig. I think this can be a great outdoors knife, as well as certainly a tactical, a utility. No, it doesn't have your classic rounded belly, but I think it can definitely be useful for multiple purposes. When I see it, I think tactical, I think combat, I think perhaps military. It's well set up for just about anything. I mentioned that previously Maciej did something called the Kepler. And here we have the Kepler. Little bit different. And I thought the Kepler was going to be a larger knife than the Maxwell when I saw the Maxwell first coming out. But they're pretty close, but the Maxwell edges it out. Knife joke, edges it out. Let's see for sure. Can we stack them up? Right there. Yeah, it's just a tiny bit longer than the Kepler. Definitely taller. We're talking almost 2 inches, like 1 points, like inch and 7/8. And on the Kepler, we're talking under 1 inch and 3/4. So close to a 1/4 inch taller on that knife. You can certainly see it. And just for measure, I always like to bring out my trusty street beat. And you can see that that is definitely a smaller, more pocketable, if you will, knife. Now, a lot of people didn't care for the Kepler, I'll just mention. I happen to like it. It has kind of a kitchen knife flavor to it. You've got an edge well below the handle. Might be good for some camp chores, kitchen chores, and still serving as kind of a tactical tool if you want. I like how that loves to spin on there. How about another Civivi knife? The Tamashi, designed by Bob Terzola. Almost gave him a new name, Bob Terzola. Definitely a smaller knife. Definitely, yeah, definitely not as tall. Tiny by comparison. More of a boot knife, really. And one of my favorites. I got 3 copies of this in different blade and handle materials. I just loved it so much. It's got that Tanto-esque look to it. Very traditional, classic Japanese look to it, with some of Bob's embellishments, of course. Here's another Civivi for comparison. Here is the Orthros. Interesting knife, if I can get it out of there, by Tony St. Manet, tactical instructor, firearms and knives and hand-to-hand. This one can turn into a karambit. Look at that. And it's got 4 distinct cutting surfaces on it, which is why I say with this one, you've really got to watch where your fingers go, because it's real easy to grab it the wrong way and get cut. This is a knife you've got to practice with. You've got to memorize it. That's the only thing about the Orthros that gives me some pause. It definitely is a drop the sheath knife. Okay, we'll trip over to the floor there. It definitely is a knife that requires some knowledge and skill to at least know how you're going to use it. A little more straightforward here. One other comparison, and this is the Basilisk fixed blade from Dam Designs. Something new over the past year or so that Dam Designs has come out with is fixed blade versions of their popular folding knives. So we've got about 1.5 inches longer on the Maxwell than on this guy. Very nice knife, very comfortable. Little squared off here. I felt that this one could be maybe a little better radiused, but it is chamfered a bit and you can choke up. It's nicely done. I do like this knife. Heavy stonewash, very heavy stonewash, which they do an excellent job with. So, well, if we were comparing this, one more comparison, I'm full of comparisons today. If we do a comparison with the Griptilian, you can get an idea of the size difference there. So a good 2.5 inches longer, I would say, on that fixed blade Maxwell. As I say, I'm liking the knife. I'm really loving the sheath. It's got a real radical look to it. I think those of you that like tactical looking knives, this is all blacked out, what they call murdered out. There is one other version. I will give you the links to both of them on White Mountain, as well as links to Macy's Instagram and other presences. I did want to show you one other thing here, which is a little bit on Maciej Torbe. And rather than read it, I will just give you that, and you can freeze frame it. Polish knife maker, doing some great work. If you see some of his custom stuff, it'll really knock you out. There's a bigger version of this. There's versions that look very similar to the Maxwell, but yet different. And some really large knives too, with like 7 and 8 inch blades. So there you go. Civivi Maxwell. Hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. Be back with you soon.